Hey there, Rick Sage, recording at the Rimrock Studios in Bishop, California. Welcome to Season 2 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I speak with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz and share their stories, tips, advice, productivity tricks, and ideas you can use to take your career or business to the next level. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. I've used Audible for many years now. I'm on the road a lot, and Audible allows me to enjoy the great books I discover or are recommended by friends. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Start your 30-day free trial with Audible today. Hey guys, Rick here. Just want to give you a heads up that I'm taking a couple weeks off to work on the podcast as I prepare for Season 3 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast. No major changes, just a couple tweaks and adjustments to a few things. I have lots of great interviews in the works for Season 3, so please enjoy these replays of 4 of our most popular episodes from Season 2, and I'll be back with more great interviews, advice, stories, and insights in Season 3. Enjoy! Today I'm speaking with Hilary Harris, founder and owner of Evo Rock Fitness on the Outdoor Biz Podcast. Hilary has built Evo from the ground up and tells us about the challenges she faced along the way. We also talk about her childhood in Hawaii, taking a NOLS course during college, and her career as a professional climber in the early days of professional climbing. I think you'll enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with Hilary Harris. Hey, welcome to the Outdoor Biz Podcast. Hilary, good to chat with you today. How's it going?
It's going great. How are you, Rick?
I'm doing great. Hanging out in Southern California this week, so it's nice and warm down here.
Well, it's been warm this week here in Boulder, but today's kind of chilly, but It's nice out.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So let's start with how you got interested in the outdoors and rock climbing. Why don't you tell us that story?
Oh, wow. Well, I kind of grew up in two contrasting worlds when I was a kid. My family lived in Houston, Texas, of all places, which is, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a massive city. It's very flat.
Yep,
There's lots of buildings. My experience in the outdoors there was going to the swimming pool and the zoo, basically, and I spent a lot of my time in shopping malls and going roller skating and bowling and things like that.
Not climbing.
But my mother, not climbing. No, not at all. But my mother's side of the family was from Hawaii, so we were really lucky because we got to go to Hawaii every summer, and that was just a magical place for me growing up. My grandparents lived on Maui, and the climate there is perfect. It's paradise, of course, and people, you just are outside all of the time. Even if you're inside, the indoors and the outdoors kind of meld together, like you've got lanais and breezes going through the house, and I played in the dirt with bare feet all the time. I never wore shoes. And we hiked in the Haleakala Crater and went to the beach all the time. So that was really where I became passionate about the environment and the outdoors. And then I ended up coming to Colorado to go to college and was studying environmental science and took a semester off and went on NOLS course.
Cool. Where'd you go on NOLS?
I went to Wyoming first. Yeah. We went to the Wind River Range, and then we had a desert section and a caving section and a winter section in the Wyoming Range. So it was pretty varied, and that was and we also had a climbing section. I forgot about that. Oops. and I had learned actually how to climb before I went on NOLS with some skier friends of mine. But when I went to NOLS, that was when it really hit home, and I thought, gosh, this is something that I want to do for the rest of my life. So I came back kind of a changed person. I think that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, those things, they just expose yourself to so many things, both personally and with the group. I always wanted to take one and never got to go on a NOLS course, but they're fabulous, life-changing events for a lot of people.
They are.
You're right, yeah.
It was totally life-changing for me.
Very cool.
I came back to Colorado and finished college, and I was absolutely obsessed with climbing. and was trying to piecemeal together a career of being, a quote professional climber. Back in those days, that was very hard to do. And
that was the early days of professional climbing, right? I mean, it just
yeah. I competed in snowbird and did the competition circuit, and then ended up in Germany. I lived over in Europe for about a year and a half, and kind of just lived that dream. Just climbed a lot and worked under the table, and lived off of small amounts of money from sponsors, and then I
did you do any other kind of food service jobs or anything to make money, or you just were living off sponsorship money?
Oh no, I did. Well, before I went to Europe, I was working at Alfalfa's market.
Okay. Yeah.
That was like my big job out of college. There's actually a really funny song called "When I Grow Up, I Want to Work at Alfalfa's." Because so many graduates from CU go there. Right. But then when I was in Germany, I was working for Gentic, which is a clothing company. I was working in the shipping department there. So, I mean, I was making some money on the side, but it wasn't sustainable, which is why I came home. And when I came home, I didn't have a car anymore because I sold it to go to Europe. So I had a bike and basically like $20 in my pocket, and my brother took me in and said that I could go sleep in the basement, and I got my job back at Alfalfa's, and I didn't, I was thinking, okay, something's got to give here. I can't keep going on like this. So that was when I enrolled back into school, and I took some classes in anthropology because I was very interested in human culture because of all of my travels and contrasting experiences. And I took a class called human ecology, which is the study of humans and how they adapt to their environments, whether they be natural or the built environment. And it was just super fascinating to me. And but it wasn't really a practical career to go in, because if you go into anthropology, then you're traveling quite a bit. Well, you're either going into academia. Yeah,
I was going to say, you're either going to be a professor or some kind of a expert on anthropology.
And so you're traveling into the jungle or whatever, and guess what? Then you're not rock climbing. So that just wasn't going to work for me. But in that exploration, I discovered architecture, because architecture is basically an applied human ecology. It's really interesting. That's what architects do. They, Winston Churchill, there was a quote from him. He says that we shape our buildings, and thereafter they shape us. And so
interesting. Yeah.
It's really interesting. So I had a knack for it too, which was important. So I decided to go back to graduate school and get into loads of debt and become a professional. So you
got a degree in architecture?
I did.
Wow. Did you ever practice?
I did. I practiced for about, 10 years.
Oh, wow. Interesting. That's great. Did you like it, or what was that like? Oh, that must have been completely different than climbing.
It was really different. I actually ended up in Southwest New Hampshire, of all places. I was working for this really innovative timber frame company, and it was awesome. It was a very tribe-like culture, like climbing, and the people that are in that culture are as obsessed and dedicated to their craft and what they do as climbers are. And so I understood that kind of passion, and it was really great to feed on that. But in the end, it wasn't my thing. I always longed to get back into climbing and into the industry. And I never quit climbing, but it was really hard to balance being an architect at a timber frame company in Southwest New Hampshire and going climbing, because all the climbing crags were pretty far. They were a couple hours away. And so were the climbing gyms. And so I would travel all the way down to Boston to train at the gym after work. And that took, an hour and a half to get there.
Were your architecture hours pretty, long days and a lot of...
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that made it even harder. Yeah.
it was very challenging. And so you didn't get a lot of vacation.
Right. Yeah, right. So is that where you got the inspiration for Evo? Was all this climbing you did in gyms?
Yeah, I mean, it was a combination of things. I actually got laid off in 2008 during the recession. The company was hit really hard, and a lot of people were let go. And of course, that was pretty distressing. But within a week, I was on a road trip going to the Red, and
see you later.
I was like, "Oh wow, I'm going on a climbing trip. This is awesome," you know. And I felt like I had, found my soul again. And so, I spent, I think it was like maybe a week or two down there, and came back and had to sort of push the reset button. And so I got some consulting gigs in green building, and then I picked up a job part-time down at Metro Rock in Boston coaching. And I love coaching. I've coached, over many decades, off and on. So it's a really fun thing to do. And when I was doing that, I really came to realize that so many people that were being introduced to climbing were being introduced in this new fabric, if you will. It was like within the confines of the gym. That was the gateway to experiencing climbing. And a lot of people didn't really experience it beyond that. I mean, you go in and you're like, oh, I'm climbing the pink route, and that was the limit of or the full breadth of their experience. So I thought, New Hampshire really needs a state-of-the-art climbing gym, and I'm an architect, and I'm really well connected in this industry.
Oh, perfect.
I've got a pretty special skill set here, and I just made the decision that I was going to start this climbing gym company, and the brand Evo was that was born out of this need that I was seeing of reconnecting people with the folklore and the legends and the stories and the practice of mentorship that we all went through as climbers. Like, is there a way that we could create a climbing gym company that bridged that gap between the history and the future of climbing? Could we design state-of-the-art climbing facilities that provided the framework for future climbers without losing, that really important folklore that really makes climbing what it is.
So you were building something bigger than just a gym. You were really reconnecting climbers to the climbing world. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, kind of a tall order, but that's what we're doing.
No, I love it. That's great. Yeah. And so tell everybody a little bit about Evo now, in case they don't know. I mean, you've come a long way since then. You've got 3 gyms across the country. I think we were talking the other day. It's interesting. I'm sure people want to hear the story about how you started out, you were going to do franchises, right? And then that kind of proved to be challenging.
It did. I
can only imagine. I mean, franchises alone are challenging, let alone with all the liabilities and legalities around climbing.
Yeah, they are challenging, and they require huge amounts of money that go into legal structures, and then you end up spending all of your time policing people, which I absolutely hate doing. And what we found is that it goes back to that tribal culture that climbers really latch onto. I mean, they like to have that individual identity, and the idea of a franchise just doesn't work, especially with our brand. I think that a franchise in this industry could probably work if you weren't really focusing on maintaining that history, in that conversation.
Yeah, because franchises have to be pretty cookie cutter, right? I mean,
if you were building birthday party gyms or something, that that could probably happen, but we experimented with it, with the whole licensing thing. We built the gym in Portland, and that created a lot of strife between the partners. There was a lot of conflicting interests going on. And then I connected with my 2 partners out here because I was coming out regularly and doing workshops on how to start up a climbing gym.
In Colorado.
At the Climbing Wall Association conference, and they attended the workshop, and we really hit it off. The founder of the gym here, his name's Clint Dillard, had a very similar vision to what I had. And so, we had this established brand, and it was just like, okay, let's, work together. So we thought that the Louisville gym was going to be the flagship franchise. And then we got into it and spent quite a bit of money in legal documents. And we said, you know what, this just isn't for us. So we banded together, and now we're moving forward as a unified force.
Nice. With just the 3 gyms, are you going to build more, or you're happy with the 3?
Yeah.
You're going to build more?
No, we're definitely building more. In fact, we're going into our first round of capital fundraising really shortly here. So it's pretty
congratulations.
exciting.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So what's it like operating a rock gym?
Operating, it's a lot different. It's one thing
to launch it and get them built and all that, but then you have all this day-to-day, safety and things that you got to manage, right?
The 2 things couldn't be more different, really.
Yeah,
and I learned that the hard way. I'm really good at launching projects.
A lot of us are.
It comes from my architecture background. Like that's what we do, right?
Yeah,
it's the construction industry, and you're designing and building these buildings, and then when the doors open, you walk away and you do another project.
Right.
And lucky for me, my partner Clint is much more detail oriented in the day-to-day stuff. So he's really taken that on. That's one reason we're such a great team, because I do more of the big picture strategic stuff, and he's delving into, the details of managing humans. I mean, that's a huge part of running a climbing gym. And you also have to have a great rapport with customers and be able to train, the staff and great customer service. It's really important to us. So, but there's all kinds of things that go on day to day. Just facility management.
I was going to say, facility, things break, you got to fix them.
HVAC problems and just plumbing. The list goes on. Yeah, exactly.
So do you guys travel around to each of the gyms on a regular basis? Are you on the road a lot visiting the gyms, or do you kind of hang out in one for a while, then go to another?
Yeah, I left New England almost 2 years, maybe a year and a half ago, and I have not been back.
Oh, wow, really? Okay.
Since I left. But I do plan on going back out there soon. I'm not sure when. So to answer your question, since I left, I have not been back.
Yeah, well, that speaks a lot to your staff. Then you don't have to go back. They must be doing a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what have been a couple of your biggest challenges, would you say, in getting the whole thing going? Was it finances? Was it legal? Was it finding space?
Boy, it was. With a climbing gym, the 2 hurdles you really have to get over are the finances and the location.
Okay.
Climbing gyms are very unique buildings because you need a lot of height.
Right.
We don't like to get into buildings that are less than 40 feet and preferably 45. Mm-hmm. That's really hard to come by. So
interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that, but it makes sense now. Yeah.
So we build our buildings from the ground up, which is extremely capital intensive.
Yeah.
And when I started the project in Concord, I had actually found a building that was very suitable for a climbing gym. It was 40 foot clear, and it was a beautiful old railroad maintenance building where they fixed railroad engines, and they had these big cranes, and it was awesome. I was totally into it. And then I just couldn't make the deal happen. There were a whole bunch of reasons why it fell through, and I ended up negotiating with a landowner who owned about 30 acres next to that. And I was able to dig into my skill set and create a subdivision plan and go to the city and get, the approval for that. And then once I did that, I was able to purchase the land, and we built from the ground up.
So, great.
But raising the funds for that was extremely challenging. It was a post-recession world, and we were in a culture that is not nearly as open to the idea of climbing as the Front Range. I mean, the Front Range, everybody it's like, oh yeah, climbing gym, great, there people are like, who are you and what are you doing?
Yeah, you're gonna do what?
Are you insane?
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of insane. But so the result, like, once we finally got we went through the SBA and through a bank, but I made tons of mistakes. I'd never done this before.
Sure,
and one of the biggest mistakes was being undercapitalized. And so I was undercapitalized, and I had also aligned myself with a group of partners that weren't really in touch with the industry. And so we had a lot of conflicts in the vision for the company, and it created a lot of strife. And being undercapitalized put me in a very difficult situation because I was literally
its own set
doing
of stressors.
Everything.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was the architect of record, and I was the owner's representative during the construction part, and then we had to create the entire the brand and the website and the programs and the offerings and the pricing and then I was the head coach, and it was just insane. I was like, I'm doing everything and I'm not sleeping, and it was not sustainable at all.
Yeah. And what kind of time period did that take? Did that take, obviously not months, years, right? I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah, it took. Well, I started fundraising in 2010 and putting the group of partners together, and we opened in December of 2012.
Well, that's 2 years. That's not so bad. Not 5 years. So.
Yeah, and then I was running that gym for 3 years, and then moved on to work on opening the Portland facility.
Got you. Mm-hmm. So what are you most proud of after all this, where you've gotten to today?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. There's probably two things. Like, one of them goes back to the whole getting the money to get this thing started. It was in a post-recession world, and I wasn't one of those fortunate people that had rich parents or friends that were going to write me a check. So I had to totally rally and bootstrap this thing.
That, yeah, because you also didn't have any, capital raising experience. You were an architect. That's a whole other level of tool belt that you got to have on there. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like what do they say? It's going to the school of hard knocks or whatever. It was brutal. I feel like I have a master's degree in business now, even though I didn't get one.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah.
So that was a monumental effort, and it's been, it's continued for years. I had to dissolve my entire 401k plan to get this thing launched. Wow. And that's scary. Pretty scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I maxed out my credit card. I took out a personal loan, and so that I would say is one thing. And the other thing, though, I guess I don't know if it's pride or it just makes me extremely happy. It brings a lot of joy to know how many thousands of people's lives we've touched, and I get phone calls and emails and messages all the time about how Evo has changed this person's life or their family's life, and it's really wonderful to hear that.
That's great.
Yeah,
and so
it feels like a success.
Yeah, that's awesome because you just bootstrapped it, and I think the reward is even greater when you go through some of those stressors. Right? If it's handed to you, sometimes you don't appreciate it as much. And when and
I'm really glad that I went through it, even though at the time I wasn't glad, and I was really envious.
Wouldn't want to go through it again, but
no,
right,
definitely not.
Who were some of your mentors, or some of the folks that helped you, that you learned from and looked up to?
Gosh, I mean, I've had mentors for years. I've had climbing mentors that have taught me a lot of things. Just about focus and discipline. In as far as in the business world goes, there were a few of my partners that really helped me along the way that had experience in business and, taught me how to build a spreadsheet. I mean, I didn't know how to do that. And one of our partners who's no longer with the company was the CEO of Rockworks, which is a large climbing wall manufacturing company. And he had a lot of insight into that world and taught me a great deal about the climbing gym business and what that was all about, and designing gyms as well. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah.
And then I guess the other person that comes to mind is Kristen Carpenter Ogden from Verde Marketing. Has been just an awesome sounding board for me and helping me, try to figure out, navigate through all of these complicated, business structures that we had going on, as well as really helping to build our brand voice in the marketplace. She's totally awesome.
Right. Has a great podcast too.
Yeah.
Yeah. She does a good job at that. Yeah. That's awesome. So, did they mostly provide advice, or I guess some of them actually gave you some hands-on experience on how to build spreadsheets, how to make presentations to bankers, I would assume?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I actually had learned quite a bit about giving presentations as an architect, because that's a really big thing that we have to do, because you're presenting a concept to an audience. When you're in graduate school, they have what they call it a jury, and they bring professionals in, and you have to present your project, and they literally make people cry. I mean, it's just awful.
Geez,
and so you go through that, and you're like, oh yeah, I can pitch a presentation all day long, So I had that skill set.
That's great. So you obviously still climb. What other outdoor activities do you do?
Well, I just started skiing again after taking 20 years off, which has been really fun for me this year. I got an AT set up, so I'm doing uphill stuff and downhill.
Nice.
And it's been fun. I was into skiing for about 10 years, and then climbing took over my life, and I stopped doing it. When I lived in New England, I cross-country skied a lot, but I got completely out of the downhill world. So that's been a lot of fun. And I trail run and I hike. I live right at the base of the Flatiron, so it's just a jaunt up there. I can solo the second Flatiron.
Nice. Do you still do any backpacking, like on your NOLS trip? Do you get out for weeks at a time, or a week at a time?
I haven't done that in a while. I would love to, though.
Yeah. It takes time, and that's a little harder to get out and do. So, and you're also involved with the Access Fund, right?
I am. Yeah, I've been on the board for about 2 years.
Great.
And that's been really rewarding work. We've got so much going on right now.
Yeah, we really do on a lot of fronts on the public lands thing. Holy cow. Yeah.
We really do. But it's been great, for fundraising. People are rallying behind us, and it's given us a platform to raise awareness, which has been awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, you guys do good work.
Yeah, and Evo is a member gym, and we did an awesome fundraising event for the Access Fund this last fall. That was a huge success, and we're hoping to give other gyms that playbook on how to do that, because
excellent. Yeah,
it's climbing gyms are the gateway to climbing, and that's that is where the people are. That's where the climbers are. So working really hard. They have on that.
I don't know if you would call it a resurgence, but they've really taken on another level of importance to the climbing world in the last few years.
Yeah, they definitely have.
That's good. So do you have any advice for someone wanting to get into the outdoor biz or grow their career or start a business like you did?
Gosh. Well, first you have to be crazy. No. I think, I get so many resumes that cross my desk, and people sending me emails and telling me how passionate they are about climbing and about Evo. And it's great to hear that. a very important ingredient in looking for staff is you want them to be passionate about what they do. But, passion isn't enough anymore. Unfortunately, it's the industry has become very professionalized.
Yeah, it's very sophisticated. Yeah, I mean, from when we all grew up in this industry 30 years ago, and it was hang an outdoor sign on your building and sell fleece, and you were in business. And now there's another 10 levels of sophistication, which is good.
Yeah, and it's just getting to be even more sophisticated. And the climbing gym industry specifically, I think, is more in its infancy than other parts of the outdoor industry. But we're starting to see that, gosh, the big guns in the industry have professionalized themselves, and we need people who have hard skill sets that have degrees in business or accounting or that can really help with analytics and marketing and things like that. And so I guess my advice would be to say to people that, yes, definitely follow your passion, but find a skill that you can develop and that you're good at. My mother, when I was 18, my mother sent me to it was like this aptitude testing thing, and it lasted for a couple of days. It was really intense.
Wow. A couple of days.
But it was awesome because they tested my skill sets, from math to, I don't know, reading comprehension, all that stuff. But then they also tested what your passions were and what you liked. And then they gave you, advice on, okay, well, it would be great for you to pursue this career, but not that one. And they were pretty spot on, and I would say, I don't know if that company is even out there anymore, but I'm sure that there's ways to test your aptitudes and figure out, like, okay, I have a knack for building spreadsheets, or I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of those things. There's some online things. I think everybody refers to the Myers-Briggs test. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff. A lot of ways you can get that.
Yeah, hard skill sets are really important,
That's good.
And we really need people that are professional, that show up on time and that are organized.
No, you're right. Yeah, the days of dirtbag climbers, you can still be a dirtbag on the weekends, but when you show up to work, it's a different world than it was 30 years ago in the outdoor biz. So that's great advice.
Yeah, definitely.
And do you have any daily routines to keep your sanity? Like, do you meditate? Do you run every day?
I actually do meditate every day, even if it's only for 10 minutes. It's a great way to start my day with a clear head. And as far as routines go, lately I've been skiing and uphill skiing in the morning or climbing. I haven't been running. I'll probably get back into that soon here. But I find that if I don't do something, it really affects me and my ability to focus. I need to exercise probably 6 days a week.
Yeah, get outside. Yeah,
definitely.
Most of us do. Yeah. And do you have any favorite books, or do you give books as gifts very often?
I love Jim Collins. Good to Great.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Great by Choice. He's written several books, and he's an amazing dude. Also.
Yeah, great. Yeah, have you got to meet him?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's a Boulderite.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got you.
But I also love adventure books that kind of keep you on the edge of your seat. And one that comes to mind is Endurance.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Ernest Shackleton.
Yeah.
God, it like, when you start thinking that you have challenges and you think about that, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and you read that book and you read the equipment that they had and the conditions that they had. It is just unbelievable. Yeah. And to just have that kind of resilience and leadership ability to keep it together it's astounding. I mean, I don't even know if they make people like that anymore. Well, and astounding to his men to look to this one guy and believe in, okay, what he says we're going to go do,
I know.
It's like, what?
It's just totally nuts.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Those are two good books. And what's your favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100?
I'd have to say probably a headlamp. I have a Petzl lithium headlamp, and it's you can't. You need. I just always have a headlamp with me, no matter where I go, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And I got actually partially benighted after topping out on the Naked Edge many years ago, and we didn't have a headlamp, and it was really scary.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So.
That's a good one. A lot of folks have mentioned that. I think most of us in the outdoor biz, I think too, we probably have 2 or 3. You know, I mean, I've got one in my fishing bag and one in my daily backpack. Definitely. That's good. So as we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to ask of our audience or say to our audience?
Gosh, well, I would say follow your passion, and I think. What I'd like to say is just find a way to give back, you know. Don't take our incredible playground that we have in this country for granted, because we need to be good stewards of it. And we need to guard it, because if we don't, it could be taken away, and that would be tragic. So
we're seeing that today.
Find a way to give back.
Yeah, it's under threat. Yeah, get involved.
Yeah,
that's good.
Get involved.
And if people want to reach out and follow up with you, how can they do that? What's the best way?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, and I also, my email is Hilary with 1 L at evorock.com.
Okay. We'll put that we'll put all that in the show notes.
Yeah.
We'll put your website too, Evo Rock. Yeah.
Oh yeah, evorock.com.
Yeah, cool. Great. Well, great. It's been great.
I think there's an 800 number on there, which is my direct line.
Oh, okay. We'll link to that too. Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes. Yep. Awesome.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, thanks for the time. It's been great chatting with you.
Yeah, it's been great.
And look forward to getting to one of your gyms soon. Yeah, and I'll see you at the show in summer.
Yeah. Well, you can come visit then.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right up there. I forgot about that. Yeah, we're in Denver now. I keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, Hilary. Have a great afternoon.
Yeah, you too, Rick.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Hilary Harris. You can catch up with her on LinkedIn or by email at hilary@evorock.com. Hilary is spelled Hilary, and be sure to check out the Evo website, evorock.com. You'll find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episodes/083. Be sure to hit your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. Thanks for listening. Today's podcast is brought to you by InMotion Hosting. I've used InMotion Hosting to host my websites for years. Rick Say's Photos blog, Stillwater's Consulting, and the Outdoor Biz podcast are all hosted with InMotion Hosting. If your New Year's resolution is to publish a blog, produce a podcast, or simply secure a domain name, go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion and sign up with them today. They make it simple and quick to get a new site up and running with easy installation tools. That's theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion. Get going today. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure and go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com where you'll find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. Thanks for listening, and until next time, be sure to make time to get outside.